could you sort of summarize what you see as the essential elements and the essential sort of skills and strategies that you've used in these interviews?
I think the first is really building a collaboration from the get-go, showing you're interested and really listening attentively to the patient, giving 100% of your focus, and then using some well-known motivational interviewing strategies. The basic ones are the open-ended questions, reflecting, affirming them, summarizing. I try to do that quite frequently. And then maybe bringing in one of the techniques like a readiness ruler, the pros and cons, some of these techniques that are so helpful to get people to take a look at their behaviors and where they are right now.
Hi, I'm Marcia Cox.
Hi,
My GP sent me in.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Dr. Turner. I'm the health psychologist here at the practice. I'd like to get to know you before we get started, but I know you're probably wondering why your GP did send you in.
Yeah.
Okay, your GP sent you in because when she had you take that secondary screening tool, I don't know if you remember the one specifically for your drinking,
Oh, yep.
the scores on that tool and some of the ways you were drinking concerned her. And so she thought it would be good for you to come in and talk to me for a bit. Hope that's okay.
Okay, sure.
And that's not unusual. In this practice, a lot of patients will come in and see me after taking those screening tools.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, sounds good.
All right. So before we get started with that, it's always good for me to just spend a minute or two and just get to know you.
Sure. I just finished my second year of grad school. I'm getting a degree in environmental policy.
Wow. That
Yeah.
sounds interesting.
It is. I really enjoy it.
Where can you see yourself ending up with a degree like that?
Well, my fiance, Ben, is interested in international politics, so we're thinking about going abroad after we get married. Yeah.
In grad school, it's going well.
Yeah.
Thinking about maybe traveling abroad. Thinking about marriage.
For sure.
Sometime soon and having a family. What do you do in your free time?
When we have it, which right now is pretty often, we get outside as much as possible. I have a big group of friends. We just went whitewater rafting last week.
Wow.
Some rock climbing, nothing crazy. I like to host parties at my house. I like to cook, so sometimes we have people over.
So you're social.
Yeah.
You get outdoors.
Yeah, we have a good group.
All right, so let's get back to why your GP sent you to see me. Right? You showed by answering the scores as honestly as you did that your drinking level is putting you at risk. And now that you're also thinking about having a family, that also might be even more, add to the concern more. And I'm going to sort of look at this around the alcohol. Where does the alcohol fit in there?
I guess my worry as to why this is a concern is because I feel like so many of my friends drink as much more than me.
Yeah.
Almost everyone my age that I know.
Yeah.
And they're all very busy, active people. It's just something that we definitely do on the weekends, definitely. My fiance probably has a drink every day. Yeah.
So it sounds like, and almost like a surprise. Wow, I can't believe that I'm even being asked to come see me. Right?
Yeah.
When my friends drink, my fiance drinks. And
Right.
if anything, they drink sometimes more than I do.
It's something I'm aware of, and I haven't always said this, but I definitely feel like, I don't want to be drinking this much when I'm 30. I've definitely had that thought. And especially if I'm starting a family, I don't see that as part of, my future.
Okay. So you even have noticed that maybe as you get older, it might be good to sort of bring it down a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah. All right. And so let's talk about it a bit. So what I read in your answers was that you're drinking about 3 or 4 the nights that you drink. Does that seem accurate? And that maybe once a week you might go out and really have a good time and let loose and have more than 5?
That sounds
More than
right.
6?
Yeah.
Yes. And one thing I want to say is it also said that you're not doing any drugs. And you're shaking your head like, of course not, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
But that's really nice. We deal with a lot of patients here and some have both. But in this case, that's really to your benefit, that it's really strictly we're talking about alcohol.
Okay.
Is that right? And so it's really seven drinks a week is really the safe limit for women. And that what happens is doctors get concerned, and the research shows that when you drink more than that, you could be at risk for medical complications with your drinking, right? And also psychological ones, relationship ones. And how's that sound? And you know that your drinking is putting you at risk.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer to be healthier, I guess.
Yeah.
It's definitely been, it's not something I've never thought of, as I said. My parents and my brother have had some issues with it, so.
Yeah. So if we were to write down some of the pros and cons of your drinking, just to understand them, it's always good for me to know why people, when they drink, like to drink, and even maybe for you to figure out, and then figure out what might not be so good about it.
Okay.
We can get into that. So what are some of the pros?
Well, definitely the social aspect.
Okay.
It's fun,
It's fun.
you know?
What is it about it that makes it fun for you?
I think when we're all together and we can all feel a little less inhibited, my group of friends, that's definitely the primary place where I'm drinking the most with my groups of friends, for sure.
All right. So it sort of loosens you up, it gets you less inhibited, and
Yeah, definitely. It's a way to let go on the weekends.
way
And
to
I'm
let
not thinking about
go,
those papers.
way to have fun, loosens you up.
Yeah,
So it's definitely a social
yeah.
part of your group. Mm-hmm. What are some of the negatives that have come up for you in drinking?
Well, negatives. Well, no one likes a hangover, so that's no fun.
Hangovers. And how often does that happen to you?
I mean, I would say I wake up with a headache on the weekends, one day of the weekend.
And again, just so I'm real clear, how much are you say you drinking most of the week? So when during the week, what would you say you drink, and then on the weekend?
Probably 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3
Days of the week,
days of the week. And how many during those days would you say?
maybe 3 or 4
3 or 4.
drinks.
And then during the weekend,
Yeah, sometimes it's
you're
more.
partying with your
Yeah.
friends?
Maybe 5
5.
in a night.
5 in a night.
Yeah.
How about what other effects have you noticed, or others that are concerning?
Sure. This doesn't happen very often, but definitely I would prefer to never get to this place where I've had a few blackouts, probably.
All right.
Definitely
And,
in college.
In college.
In undergrad, yeah.
Yeah, what's that?
In undergrad, especially.
In undergrad. And what was concerning about those for you?
Well, not remembering what exactly happened never feels great. I got into one bad situation in college that my mother was involved in, which was not pleasant.
Really risky to you, to your health, and to your safety, or
Yeah,
bad, like embarrassing? Or
I would say not usually risky to my health. I feel safe around the people that I drink with for the most part.
Okay.
But there have been a few embarrassing moments,
Embarrassing.
for sure.
Okay.
Some embarrassing photos.
All right. So one thing you said, and I just want to bring that back up, is you talked about wanting to have a family. Mm-hmm. And so I'm wondering if, you're pretty aware probably that it's really unhealthy for the fetus to drink
Sure.
during stages of pregnancy. So have you thought about that at all as you've been thinking about
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
drinking?
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
my mom stopped smoking and drinking right away when she had my brother. So I definitely plan on doing that. And I think I have more friends from home who are already starting to have kids.
Yeah.
So I think there's some definitely support there.
It seems like you do it socially. It's really helped you feel less inhibited, sounds like. And then you do it frequently on the weekends, really. You let loose that way and have a good time. You have some blackouts that are of concern, right? You haven't seen a lot of effect up till now, although your mom and now your doctor is telling you there's concern. And you said you're also interested in starting a family.
Yeah.
And so that's something that might have you change your mind. I am wondering what would have to happen to you, when you think about it, like what would be an indication for you that this is more like your brother and your dad, that this is something that really is a concern?
I think that I just have been ignoring it, maybe. And that putting all these pros and cons out makes it sort of more an apparent issue. I think the most difficult part is that everyone I'm around is sort of doing the same thing.
Yeah,
So-
and I get that. And that's, by the way,
Yeah.
that's very common for people your age. And I hear you saying that. I guess what I'm wondering is, just personally, would there be something that would tell you, okay, I really do need to cut back? Is there something that would have to happen in your life right now that would say, hey, it's time? And your doctor's concerned and the tools that we use to examine this say you're at risk. But what has to happen?
I mean, given where I want to be, I think in the future and with having a family, I think I'd like to start cutting back right away.
So I'm wondering, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready you are right now to take a look at this seriously like you've done today, and then have you bring it down.
1 to 10.
1 being, not at all, 10 being very motivated.
Honestly, like an 8.5 maybe.
Wow, you are very decisive. I can see why. So an 8.5, and what I'm wondering is, I wouldn't have heard it like that. There's so many reasons socially for you to
But it's
continue
really
drinking.
only, I feel like it's really only social. And I feel like if I can't overcome that, that's kind of.
So you feel like those reasons that you're drinking aren't enough to you personally to have you continue at these harmful levels,
Right.
or risky, let's call them
Yeah.
levels.
I mean, I'm not going to
And that-
lose friends,
Okay.
I don't think.
Okay. So given that, what do you think you could do in this next week? And I'd like to see you next week,
Okay.
but what can you do in this next week, if that's good with you, to actually change your drinking risk?
Well, I definitely would want to talk to my fiance
Okay.
Ben about it. Not even necessarily get him to cut back, but just tell him where I'm at and what you guys have said. And then with my mom as well, I think my mom would be a great person to hold me accountable, although I would hate to admit that she might be right about my habits. But
All right, those sound like some great steps. Is there anything that I can do to remind you to do those and to follow through on that?
I think seeing you next week will be good motivation for me. And I think if 7 is a weekly limit to work for, then I think probably drinking only on the weekends is something manageable.
So knowing the safe limit and then
Yeah.
limiting it to a set period during the week.
Yeah.
All right, is that something you can try this week?
Yeah.
All right, great. So what I'd like to do is great to talk to you. Do you have any questions for me?
Not right now.
Okay. All right, so I'd like you to go out and make an appointment to see me next week.
Okay.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Yep. Bye. So in this first couple of videos, what's the setting? What's the scene that's going to get played out to demonstrate the?
Well, in all of the demonstration videos, our intent here is to try and replicate as much as possible, just like normal people, so that the cases and the case studies that were selected are the kinds of clients or the kinds of patients that you might see in a primary care practice. And we looked through a number of different case profiles and made these selections. And that we tried to really have just the kind of normal, expert, brief